Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Cooper, and I am so excited about today. I am officially a senior, and that is so crazy to be saying right now because junior year was so long. I was really just waiting until this last day. And yesterday I officially finished my junior year of high school. It's a big thing and I'm really excited to almost be done with high school. High school has not been my favorite time and I'm very excited to move on, but I have just had so much going on and I'm excited to get a break for the next few months during summer. But today I have a little bit of a more thinky episode. I actually had a whole different episode planned, but then last night while I was getting ready for bed, this idea popped into my head and I was like, I'm going to talk about that. That's going to be the episode today. So today I want to talk about this idea of Sonder. Now, if you don't know what that is, Sonder is basically the idea that every person you pass by, whether that's your friend, someone in your family, someone on the streets, randomly, everyone has their own lives. They're all experiencing their own experiences. They have their own memories. They have everything completely separate from your end. You may be like, well, yeah, of course they have a different life. They're a different person. But I think when you really think about it, it's a really crazy concept because we can only think about our own lives and what's gone on in our own lives, but someone else has something completely different. And it's a crazy idea to me. And hopefully you can think about it more and, see how crazy that actually is because there's 8 billion people on Earth. Every single one of us has different goals, dreams, loves, talents. We all have our own memories and we're all experiencing the same feelings, but in a different way. We all have our own way of experiencing these things, and it's crazy. And with that idea comes another idea, and that's that nobody cares about you. And I'm not saying that in a way of your life means nothing, nobody cares about you. I'm saying that in a way of we're all going through our own thing. Nobody is focused on you. So that gives us freedom to be who we want to be. And even those insecurities that you have in your life, no one is focused on those insecurities the way you are. Because everyone has their own insecurities. Everyone has their own life to be focused on. So when you are thinking, oh, I just don't really like how I look today. I'm embarrassed for people to see me like this, whatever. They don't care. And maybe they'll notice that insecurity that you've been thinking about, but they aren't going to give it a second thought because ultimately they have their own insecurities. They have their own things to be focused on. I'm not saying you can't have insecurities. Everyone has insecurities. I do as well. But I'm just saying maybe that will lighten the load of those insecurities a little bit because they're really not as deep as they seem because we get this idea in our head that everyone's going to look at us, everyone's going to notice our insecurities, but really that's not the reality. I mean, how many times do you go out and you're just trying to guess people's insecurities and you're just judging everyone you see on the streets? And maybe you are like that, but I would encourage you to examine yourself if you are like that because it's not cool to judge random people on the street. Not cool, man. But yeah, and in general, I'm not saying every single person is just extremely selfish, but as human beings, we have a tendency to be selfish. We are a selfish group as a whole because ultimately we're all focused on ourselves. If you want to see this in real time, go take pictures with your friends or family and notice how, no matter how you look in the picture, they will like the picture if they look good in it. Everyone is focused on themselves. When we see a picture that we're in, our eyes automatically go to us. Do we look bad? Are we midway through a sneeze? Do we have our eyes closed? Is our hair a little bit off-centered? Whatever it is, we're focused on ourselves. We don't care how anyone looks. That's not our problem, right? And that's the perfect example of how selfish we are in general. We don't care. And, a lot of times your friends will be like, my gosh, this is the perfect picture. Can I post this on Instagram? And then they send it to you and you just look like you've just woken up from a nap and there's drool coming down your face and your eyes aren't even open, you're standing in an awkward position, but it's like they think that picture's good because they look good in it, right? We're all focused on ourselves. We're self-absorbed. We don't care about other people naturally, and I'm not saying we're selfish all the time. Of course, there are going to be moments where we aren't selfish and we care for each other, and that's so important. But the idea is that we get to be ourselves because of this, because no one actually cares. So live your life. Do the things you want to do. I'm doing a podcast. I don't have millions of people watching me, but I do it because I love this, and I'm not worried about what is someone going to think of me, because ultimately no one cares. If someone wants to watch my podcast, they can. If they don't want to, that's fine too. They don't have to, So be you. Do the things that make you happy, because no one's focused on you. No one, except yourself. So one of the biggest things that I'm beginning to learn is like, I don't want to look back on my life and realize that all I ever cared about was someone's opinion of me, or how I think someone's opinion would be of me, right? Because we're always thinking of that. We're always thinking, oh, what would this person think of me if I did something bold, if I put myself out there? What would these people think of me? How we think people will perceive us is not reality, because the people around us aren't actually thinking about us. We're all going through our own things. We're all experiencing our own lives, and we create this false sense of reality in our own heads that, oh, this person doesn't like me. Oh, this person thinks I'm a bad person, all these things, but those based off of our own thoughts, and our own thoughts can be misleading many, many times. And I think that's also something that's super important to grasp, is not every thought that comes into your head is true. So when you have those thoughts of fear and anxiety and insecurities coming in, and you feel overwhelmed by them, you feel like you're drowning in all of these thoughts, you need to stop and remind yourself that not every thought is true. Not every thought needs to be considered that way. If you have a thought and it's negative and it's not helpful, push it away. You don't have to let those thoughts in. And I know that's easier said than done, because in the moment you're going to be overwhelmed by those thoughts and it's going to be harder, but I encourage you to just practice that. When those crazy thoughts come in, when the thought that don't make you feel good come in, don't let them get past that part in your brain. Don't let it get past the first stage, If it pops into your brain, that's okay. We can't stop a thought from popping into our brain, but we can stop it from destroying us. We don't have to let it ruin our self-confidence. We don't have to let it overcome our lives. We get to decide what thoughts we let in and what thoughts we push out and decide don't get to take room in our brains. It's the same thing as you get to control what you're consuming. If you're watching bad shows hanging around bad people, that will do something to your brain. That will do something to your actions and your heart. But if we're listening to good things that are encouraging and lifting us up, those things will change our hearts for the better. Those things will make us become a better human. Right? It's the same thing with our brain. There's always going to be the temptation to let those bad thoughts in, but we don't have to take it. We don't have to bite, You can acknowledge the thought, send it right back out, because not all of our thoughts are reality. Not all of our thoughts need to be assessed and taken in and nitpicked, Not all of them are helpful. Anyways, that was a little side tangent, but back to kind of everyone living their own lives and going through their own things. I think it's just so important to think about what other people are going through. In a world where everyone is focused on themselves, I think we, meaning the community we're building here, we can create a group of people who has a deep care for the people around us, Everyone is living their own lives, Sonder, again. But with that, there's a lot of things that come with it. Maybe that person who you saw who repeats their outfits a lot and you're bothered by that. Maybe that person is struggling for money. They they're really struggling and they don't know if they're going to be able to make it at their next paycheck. Maybe that person who was really mean to you, maybe they're dealing with the death of a loved one. Maybe the closest person to them in their life just passed away and they don't know how to deal with it. This is their first time dealing with death. Maybe that girl at your school who's always been just not the nicest person to the people around her. Maybe she's dealing with the toughest breakup of her life and she just needs someone to be there for her. Maybe someone is playing a sport and they feel like their sport is their whole identity and they're not doing well in their sport right now and they need comfort, but they don't have that comfort. They can't find that comfort. Maybe someone is dealing with self-harm, depression, anxiety. Maybe those things are overtaking them and they don't know if they can make it another day. Maybe someone's dealing with confidence issues. They don't feel like they're worthy of. All of these things are things that people are dealing with all around us. And no, we don't get to see those things from a lot of people. You know, the random people on the street who walk by us. We aren't gonna just go up to them. Hi, sir, what are you going through? And I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying consider that. You know, when someone is being rude to you, when someone isn't treating you well, think about that. Think about the things that they may be going through. And I'm not saying that as an excuse for their actions because I do not believe that what you're going through gives you a pass to mistreat people. But what I'm saying is that maybe that can provide you some peace when someone isn't the nicest to you, when someone mistreats you. You know, maybe they're going through something and they don't know how to deal with it. And you have every right to be upset. You have every right to be sad or angry or feel whatever emotion you're feeling about what happened. But I just encourage you to try to think about all sides. Don't just let your emotions control you because I think that leads us down the wrong path. It leads to resentment. It leads to things that ultimately we will have to deal with along the line, you know, whether that's tomorrow, the next month, the next year, in 10 years, you know, those feelings will come back and they'll build if we don't confront them right there. And I just encourage you to think about what everyone is going through. And that includes yourself. You're going through things that people around you don't see and they don't know about. Maybe those things that I mentioned earlier, you know, self-harm, depression, anxiety, poverty, death, breakups, sports, whatever it is. You know, there's so many other things it could be, but maybe you yourself are dealing with those things. And I just encourage you to be gentle with yourself. I know it's hard and it feels never ending and you feel broken, but we're all broken. Everyone walking down the streets, everyone who you encounter in your life is broken. We're all dealing with things. So give grace to yourself. Give grace to yourself in the hard moments. Give grace to yourself for that time that you didn't treat that person right because you were dealing with something. It's okay. You know, you are going to make it through this. And with being gentle with yourself, I think it's also important to be gentle with the people around us. You know, knowing all of these things that could possibly be going on in the lives of the people around us, we need to be gentle. You know, we're all broken and we're all dealing with so many things on a day-to-day basis, and we can be the light. We can be the people who choose to smile at that person on the street who's having a bad day. We can be the person who shows kindness to the people around us on a day-to-day basis, right? We need to be spreading love and positivity instead of hate and judgment. We need to be the change that we want to see. And I know that's so cringy and we see that on, you know, like Facebook mom, you know, posts, but it's true. If we want to see change in people's actions, if we want to see more kindness in the world, then we need to be that. We need to take action and treat people with love because everyone needs love. Everyone needs a hug. Everyone is going through battles that no one else sees. Everyone has their own story that's being written, and there are ups and downs in that story, and we don't see the ups and downs in everyone's lives because we have our own, and that's okay. That's okay to be focused on our own, but it's important to realize that. And I think that will allow us to have more grace for them when they mess up, when they say something that hurts you, right? Do not repay evil for evil. When someone wrongs you, when someone mistreats you, when someone says something to you that you think, oh, I would never do that to them. Do not repay them with evil. That never gets you anywhere. And it leads to resentment, and it leads to discontentment with our own lives. Repaying evil for evil will never solve the problem. It will only make it worse. And I really need you to hear me with that. I know that it can be hard sometimes to keep our mouths shut or to exit the situation without fighting back, without pouncing on that person. But it will never get better if you are just constantly fighting each other, if you are just in a battle with each other, because that's not what our life is meant to be. We're not supposed to be just battling each other, trying to make everyone else's lives miserable because they wronged us. No, when someone wrongs you, how about you treat them with kindness anyways, and God will handle the rest. God will handle the punishment that will come to them for how they treated you. That's not your job. Your job is not to punish them. God is the ultimate judge. That's not our place. And in Romans 12:14, I was reading this passage yesterday, and this really stood out to me. But Romans 12:14 says, "Bless those who persecute you." And it's like, why would we want to bless the people who are doing us wrong? And why would we want to do that? You know, they don't deserve that love. They don't deserve that kindness, right? But ultimately they do, just as much as you do, because you've also wronged people. I have. I've wronged people, and I've done things wrong, and but it's not our place to judge someone else. Whenever our lives are over, the day of judgment will come, and God will do that work. It's not our place to go around judging people for the sins they've committed, because we ourselves have our own sins. And that reminds me of, don't tell someone that they have a speck in their eye when we have wood in our own eye, and not literally, of course. I don't have like a piece of wood in my eye, but you get what I'm saying. You can judge someone for how they treated you, but you've probably also treated someone else like that in your life. We're all guilty. We all are imperfect, and we're all just trying to live our lives the best we can. And it's not our place to judge them. It's our place to be gentle and to love them anyways, and to be kind to them anyways. And that doesn't mean putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. That doesn't mean going back to the person who hurt you time and time again. That just means that you don't have to go out of your way to make that person miserable. You don't have to go out of your way to get revenge on that person who hurt you. It means taking a step back, maybe. Maybe you need to make changes so that you aren't around that person anymore, and that's okay. It's important to set those boundaries, and to, if someone's hurting you, don't stay there. Don't allow them to keep hurting you. But in order to make that hurting stop, you don't have to be rude to them. You don't have to cause that same pain onto them. And another verse in Romans 12 is Romans 12:21, and that says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." And that's really what I was just saying. There is evil in the world. There is. There's so much of it, and I don't understand it all, and you don't either, because it's impossible to understand. But there are evil things surrounding us all the time. But like I said earlier, we get to be the kindness in the world. We get to be the light. We can be the people who choose to overcome that evil with good instead of joining that evil and making it worse. God rewards the people who are lights in the world instead of just joining the darkness. When the people around us are becoming dark, they're being led by the enemy. We don't have to join in. We can be the light. We can show other people how much better of a road it is when we choose the light, when we choose to bring kindness into our schools and our workplaces and our families, even into our friend groups. All of those things. Everyone needs light. I think in this age with social media, the world is getting darker. There's a lot of things going on, and in the news, there's always so much going on, so much evil in the world. And it can be hard and it can be dark, and the people around us are experiencing the same thing. But we don't have to join in on that. We can be the change, and we can be the person who, in the face of all of this going on, we can smile and be kind to the person next to us. That changes people. That can change lives. You have the opportunity to change the people around you. I know I say it a lot, but it's true. One simple act of kindness, one smile at someone can change their day, and it can change their life. Maybe that person who you smiled at hasn't felt like anyone's seen them in a long time, and that smile made them feel seen, right? It's the little things like that that make a difference in the world, and we can be that difference. With that, I think that is going to wrap up episode 8. I don't have much else to say about it, but I just encourage you this week to think about all of the things that the people around you are going through, and just be gentler. Be more gentle with the people around you, and also with yourself. You're going through things too. And I just encourage you to be the light in the room that you're in. I hope you guys have a great week. This is actually the first episode that I'm filming early. Today's actually Friday. Every other episode I have filmed on Saturday and ended up editing and posting on Saturday, but today I filmed it one day early because I'm actually going to the Grand Canyon. I'm gonna go hiking, seeing waterfalls, and just having an adventure. I'm super, super excited for that. Hiking is probably a top 3 activity in my opinion, so I'm just so excited, and I hope you guys loved this episode, and I hope it can change your perspective on things. If you guys did enjoy this episode, please make sure to follow, like this video, and share it if you have anyone else who needs to hear this message who you think would enjoy this. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next week. That is the scoop.